So once again, Nando V Movies and a bunch of other YouTubers are getting together to do one excellent scene, where last year they did the one marvelous scene for Marvel, now they're doing it for X-Men. Only this time it's been opened up to all media, not just one series of films related to a topic or a franchise, in this case the X-Men. And I'm going to take you back to X-Men circa the year 2000, not the movies, no, the animated series, X-Men Evolution, where Kitty Pryde is a Valley Girl, Cyclops is a cool jock who's also a super nerd, and you can see the color of literally everyone's underwear. Hi there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, my name is Cody Hansel and thank you for joining me in this video, and thank you to Nando V Movies, Lessons from the Screenplay, High Tops Films, and other members of the film and media commentary communities to bring this together for one huge event again. This time they're doing it for X-Men and the entire franchise, not just a series of films. So what I want to talk about is a scene from 2000 to 2004's X-Men Evolution. So a little bit of setup to talk about this show. First and foremost, there's a bit of a change, right, to how we normally perceive the X-Men. A lot of the times they're a pre-formed team who is already a lot of adults, you know, they're already grown up and such. This time around, however, most of our primary team is in high school to appeal to the cool kids, or to kids like me who were 6 years old in the year 2000. But the character we're going to be focusing on today is Storm's nephew, Spyke. He has the ability to grow spikes out of his body and shoot them around and everything at the beginning of the series, but for the most part he's athletic, he plays basketball, he's a skateboarder, good at sports, etc. And is a pretty good member of the team in the sense that he's got a cool ability that works really well with the composition of the group. At about season 3 of the show, we find out about, one, the Murlocs, who are a underground group of mutants that have pretty intense physical traits that make them look different from other mutants. They can't really exist topside, as they say, because they look weird and humanity would never accept them. Now, fast forward a little while and we have mutants as a worldwide knowledge. The world now knows about mutants, whereas prior in this season, nobody really knew about them unless they were mutants or close to mutants, like family and such. So we see the common theme that comes out of almost all X-Men stories at some point or another, the idea that there's a separation, right? A racial separation in a way from the mutants and the humans. But more importantly, through to the season that we're talking about, season 4, episode 5, Uprising. In this episode, we get the re-entry of Spyke, who has mutated even further to the point where he doesn't look anything like what he used to. He's a little bit older, his voice is deeper, and we see Spyke fighting back. Not damaging any people, just attacking their property, protecting other mutants, but not truly hurting anybody. And this sets off a bit of alarms for both the humans and the X-Men. The X-Men trying to convince him that, hey, this isn't really the best course of action. You know, you should try and do things a bit more chill, a little bit more peacefully. And the humans going on the offensive, pushing out mutants and trying to attack them. There's one scene in particular that I want to talk about in this, and it's the grocery store scene. We see Spyke walking into a grocery store, picking up some groceries and going to the front counter. The other people in the grocery store are visibly scared of him and are avoiding him at all costs. When he gets to the register to check out, the store owner says, "You trying to prove a point, mutant?" He says, "No, are you?" And he says, "No, I'm exercising my right to refuse service." And Spyke says, "Why?" And he says, "Because you're bothering my customers." Spyke looks around, sees everybody's concerned, and he starts to leave. He knocks the groceries onto the floor, which is a little immature, but he's a kid. And he starts walking towards the door just to leave peacefully. And that's whenever a random woman grabs a child that we see earlier in the episode who seems to be a mutant and says, "Here, take this one with you too." The kid's mother says, "No, he's not a mutant, he's just sick." And at that point, all of the other people in the grocery store start abusing this child. They start yelling at him, telling him, "Hey, we don't want you here. We don't want you here. Get out." And the kid runs off and tries to hide in a shelf. And at that point, they start toppling over the shelf to the point where it almost crushes the kid. Luckily, Spyke stops him. Spyke then knocks out a wall, gives the kid back to his mother. Mom turns, looks at all the people inside the shop and says, "You people are monsters," and runs out of the room. At that point, Spyke could do anything. What he does is he goes, grabs a bunch of groceries, throws them back in the basket, drops some money on the counter, and leaves peacefully. X-Men is not shy to this kind of story, right? They've told this story a million times over, and they're going to continue to. It's always been about race in one way or another. There's always been about segregation in one way or another. And in this example, we see a pretty prime version of it. We see a black character who in this episode is never outwardly attacked for being black, but instead they're attacked for being a mutant, for looking different. He has the power to do whatever he wants in this scenario. None of these people could stop him, but he decides to handle things peacefully. He does do some property damage. He does cause a problem with somebody who is telling him no and who would tell other people like him no. But at the end of the day, he took what he needed, left the money, and went. I don't think I have to work very hard to find a synonymous example to show you all in our current day and age why this is an important episode and why it's an important lesson. But this episode was made 20 years ago nearly, and its lesson is still relevant today. And that's a little scary. It's a little concerning that 20 years later, this racial divide hasn't shrunk all that much, that there's still this exact same thing going on right now. Art has always been a statement of its time, and the X-Men has always been a statement on diversity. It's about found families. It's about adoption and friendship and teamwork. But it's also about segregation. It's also about separation of peoples based on differences. In this case, very extreme differences in the sense that normal people don't have powers and the mutants do, to the point to where normal people have to create these crazy weapons to fight off mutants. But for the most part, they don't need to. They don't need to fight off mutants. They don't need to protect themselves from a majority of mutants. Only the bad actors. Throughout the show, we see that all the ones that are out of line are pushed to this for some reason. Toad is an outcast. Blob is made fun of. Even though he's extremely strong, he's also large. He's overweight. And people make fun of him because he's clumsy. You have Tremor, who is a social outcast, seemingly by choice, because he's kind of a rebel. And let's not even get into Mystique, because Mystique in this show has had it rough. This is one of the many ways to get this story told to children, that we don't have to live like this. You don't have to live like this. You have the power to change things. And they do change things a little bit in this episode. They show people that they're not all bad. And even though Spyke continues to live underground with the Morlocks and things don't seem to change so much at the end of this episode, it is a foothold. It sets up for the rest of the season and the end of the series. And I think that's an important lesson to remember today. He protected somebody else who is different from everybody else around them, but same like him. And then instead of hurting them, instead of fighting back, paid the money, he paid the due, and left out the front door like any normal person would. Hey everybody, again, thank you for watching this video. I didn't get a chance to jump in on the One Marvelous scene last year. I hadn't quite figured out what I wanted to do with YouTube. And whenever I decided to take the animation path and I saw this One Excellent scene trending, I wasn't really sure I was going to have the opportunity to do this until I watched Nando's video and he actually talked about it. And I want to thank him and everybody else who's part of this, who set this all up, again, for giving me this opportunity and giving everyone else this opportunity to get in this big playlist. And please, anybody who's watching this video, I've got a link down below to the One Excellent Scene playlist. Go check it out. Go watch a lot of the other videos, as many of them as you can, because from what I've seen, they're all pretty quality content, and it reveals a lot of things about the X-Men, things that I didn't know. I say that like I'm some kind of professional on the X-Men, whenever all I've really seen is the movies. I've even not seen a couple of those, and most of X-Men Evolution at this point. Anyway, check out my social media down below. Go follow me on Twitch, where I stream every week. Subscribe, like, leave a comment. What's the comment? Ooh, who's your favorite X-Men? Mine's always been Gambit. I think he's cool and he throws cards around. He's got a bow staff, those cards around. He's got that Cajun accent with the big jacket. I always thought he was cool. He got done dirty in the movie though. Anyways, I'm out. Peace.